Good day, Legendary Joe. How are you doing today? The presidential candidate of the NDC, Mr. Peter Obi, he granted an interview with Trude. And in that interview, he laid out a lot of accusation. He said the governments are after his life. He said the governments are into his business. They're stopping his business from growing, from glowing, from prospering, if I must say. What's your take on this?
You see, first of all, for me, I like Shude. The Shude has built a platform that has stood the test of time and is occupying a significant space in the media corridor. And I think he's one of the best, in what he does. I watched his interview with the cast of Blood Sisters 2, and how he was able to manage the conversations with three very strong characters, which included Miss Kate Henshaw. It speaks to his depth. It speaks to his his professional skills, and he's good at it. But I think he should stick to entertainment. He should restrict his conversations to entertainment, to skit makers. When you bring Sabinos, when you bring actors, when you bring comedians, because there are in his interview with Peter Obi, there are at least 20 different positions I was able to highlight where he missed out in further enriching that conversation. He missed out in making the conversation a worthy one. If you bring a politician of Peter Obi's caliber, either we like it or not, Peter Obi today is one of the most prominent leaders of the opposition. Most prominent, you can hardly list 3 names without Peter Obi featuring in your list if you are discussing opposition leaders today. Now, we are in political season, and then you manage to bring such man with enormous political capital to your studio. And then the man was throwing very heavy allegations, and you couldn't give the audience at least a listening pleasure of furthering the conversation. For example, when Peter said the government is after his life, and then Peter's justification for it is that because his businesses are being attacked, being threatened, or being frustrated, correct? A good interviewer who is not just there to just fulfill all righteousness. Then let it be that I've interviewed a politician too. It's not just entertainment I'm doing. If you are really there for the benefit of the conversation, when the man made such a heavy allegation, your job is to ensure that you sustain the conversation further and move into the specifics. Obi runs Next Cash and Carry, Next supermarket where he sells household items. Obi must now tell us that some branches have been sealed or demolished by government. Then we know the government is truly after your life. They are frustrating your businesses. Because sometimes when they say after my life, it doesn't mean that he survives assassination attempt. When you attack somebody's livelihood, you are truly after his life. So Obi is correct to that extent. However, you cannot make such allegation and leave it nebulous. You have to define the specifics. How many of such shops Obi, as the government demolished, should they had the opportunity to offer scheme? By running Next shops, that means, and we know Obi is a cereal importer. He's one of the most prominent importers in this country. He produces nothing that he sells there. All of his merchandise there are imported. Therefore, it's expected that he has a lot of containers on the high sea. Correct? So how many of such containers are the customs seized or refused to clear just because the manifest bears Peter Obi's name? Should they have the opportunity of engaging further? Correct? Obi today, we know, he had always bragged of saying he had shares in banks. I was chairman of this bank. I was at 28. I was chairman of World Bank. Yeah, we know Obi had blue chip shares in major and prominent enterprises, correct? Obi had to, would have to tell us in very specific terms how many of such shares are they being mandated or manipulated or harassed or coerced to sell, or how many of them had been legally acquired by the government such that they are pushing him out of the stock market. He has to tell us, should they had the opportunity of asking the specifics. Peter Obi had on several occasions had said his daughter teaches in Lagos, or she works in Lagos as a teacher. Obi must tell us that, okay, on the account that is running for presidency, the president, by threatening his life, had also ensured that the Lagos state government unduly dismissed my daughter from the school she's teaching, or she's being owed salaries, or she's being the treatment she's receiving from the school authority is unfair on the account that he is running for presidency. These are the specifics an intelligent interviewer would inquire further to know. But Shude was smiling, grinning year to year, like he thought it's not a comedy show. When you bring politics, that's why some of us will tune to BBC, CNN. Have you ever seen, even the podcast, many of these podcasters, some of them are even comedians by craft. But when they bring leaders, they engage to the serious parameters of those interviews. Shude was laughing and smiling all the way, while Obi was getting away with blanket, reckless, nonchalant, and very nuisance allegations. Now, how are they threatening you, Peter? He says when he went, he was coming from either he was coming or he was going. At the airport, his vehicle was wrongly parked at a no parking zone. Then it was clamped. Obi made it sure that it was actually on a no parking zone. And then when he approached, he was telling them that, look, it is me. Do you know who I am? Those ones, being professional, was like, what has your identity got to do with your vehicle parking in, wrongly? And it is legitimately clamped. Now, Obi confessed on your show that he exhibited the regular culture of the Nigerian big manism. Do you know who I am? Don't you know me? And then to defend it, he said other vehicles were there. Baba, we may not be able to catch every thief today, but the one thief we're able to catch, we must make an example out of him. So because we cannot, combat crime 100%, we'll leave every criminal to go scot-free. You are this criminal, Peter Obi, that we have caught today. We will make an example out of you. You have to pay. In fact, because you are a leader, we should hold you to higher standards because you intend to preside over this nation. And if you are saying, if you want to be called His Excellency, your way of acquiring presidency must be excellent. These are the excellent attributes we expect from a leader. And then you are flouting the rules, but you want the law to be waived or to be tempered because you are Peter Obi. Should they had the opportunity of saying, sir, don't you think that was an offense? And should you not commend the authorities for ensuring that regardless of who the personality of the offender, they stick to the books? He was smiling. That's why I like Charles Anyangolu of Arise TV, for example. When Nasiru El-Rufai, the former governor, was there, that was where he said he tapped the phone of the NSA. He confessed to treason. Charles immediately cautioned him, look, you are admitting to a crime here, sir. But Nasiru caught up lost in the, buzz of the moment. He further enforced and emphasized the crime, saying, no, I'm a terrorist. And then, thanks to Charles, because Charles inquired further, that is why we could pursue, the government of the day can pursue that self-confession. Because in law, there's such thing as self-confession. When you have confessed, then we have grounds to pursue. But should was all. In fact, the last 2-3 minutes, you would be right to assume it wasn't a politician that was speaking, but a professional comedian. You would think it was an Akpakufo or Mr. Ibu in that interview, and not a politician aspiring to lead this nation. Should he does a very good job. Oh, judging from how he handled that, imagine you bring an Ashwaju to your interview, a president to an interview. Is this how you handle it? You'll be was this starstruck? I want to assume he may be a fan. He may even have voted for Peter Obi in the last election. But you, as a professional, you must not let your personal emotions come by, in the way of your professional judgment. You must stick to the script. I think he was overwhelmed by the personality, his favorites, his hero, right in front of him. So he lost all composure and turned something that had the capacity of being a worthy interview into a circus. Smiling, giggling, grinning, laughing. He was almost going to stand up and start dancing. It's unfortunate. So, Peter, that interview, as far as I'm concerned, was a worse outing than that of Rufai Osene, where every response to any economic question was, I will not tell you. This outing, which was, I think, was supposed to be damage control to, convince us that that was a one-time goof. He managed to make it worse. Because now you have gone away from not knowing how to tackle the situations in the country to making yourself a victim and throwing false allegations you cannot substantiate. Because when he tried to make sense of the conversation, he said some people that wants to celebrate weddings, they will first call him that my children are getting married but don't come. Ordinarily, should you attend parties you are not invited to? The best way of not ensuring you don't come is not inviting you. So who in their right senses go about to tell people, no, don't come? You don't invite them. These occasions are strictly by invitation. I want to assume occasions of that standard are strictly by invitation. So if you are not a gate crasher, once they don't invite you, you should know that means you are not invited, you won't go. But they have to first call you and say, please don't come. Because they know you will go there and start making content, washing plates. It's not because of the government. If truly those causes exist, it's because they don't want you to be a nuisance in their party. This is party, societal weddings. They want decorum. But you will go there and start washing plates. You arrive late and want people to shout, kekerenke. And these people want decorum, they want decency. Please, sir, we know sometimes you get crashed, don't come. It is a call for self-reflection. Why should my friends be calling me not to come? Instead, in his shallow-mindedness, is zeroed it down to, is the government not... What does Tinubu gain or lose in Peter not attending weddings, for God's sake? How does that affect Tinubu's votes? But because you are before an interviewer who is not serious-minded, who is not deep, he let it slide. You should ask, attending burials and... You attended all this in 2023. How did they help you? You lost. Distant thought. You attended, in fact, you did more than attending parties. You attended every church crusade and made yourself the candidate of the church. Yet you lost. But now, it's the little burial in your estate that will make you not... So I would advise, because we're not fully into the campaign season. There will be many of the likes of shoot. Our advice. When you are lucky to get some of the... imagine, if you get an article, even if you get an Ade Wale of SDP, you have to be able to dig deep into the depth of the ideas. That is the point. Let me tell you how election works. Supporters of Tinubu, the way the human nature works, nobody is convincing the supporters of Asiwaju from not voting him. Even if Peter becomes Moses and splits the Red Sea, they are still not going to leave Asiwaju to vote for Peter Obi. Correct? Asiwaju has his base locked. And it's the same thing for Peter Obi supporters. And you can see from the content of their conversations that even if Ashwaju discover the cure for AIDS today and say, all of you, particularly those of you in Lagos, because the statistics says there are more HIV patients in Lagos now than in other places. I have discovered the cure for HIV and cancer. They will still not vote for him. Correct? Why politicians campaign? Do you know why? Politicians campaign not because they want to convince your supporters or my supporters to be convinced. We are already convinced. It's because there's a large population of undecided voters. Many of them abstained from the election the last time. Many may be planning to abstain now. They do not have a candidate yet. Many will be voting for the first time because they are clocking 18 for the first time now. Correct? We are campaigning towards the undecided voters. So our conversations, our campaigns, our messaging is towards them. That, okay, because you know you do not have a candidate yet, this is why I am a better choice than the other guy. Now, one of them came to you. Should even did a disservice to Peter himself. Because if I am an undecided voter and I want to hear his ideas, Baba, there's insecurity, how are you going to tackle it? Okay, if you say there's energy crisis, how are you going to tackle it? You did not give Peter the opportunity to sell himself. You were laughing. And sometimes interviewers are the ones to key their guests into the direction they want the conversation to flow. The man offered no solution at all. The only thing I heard him say, even about insecurity, was I will go to Badon to go to Badon to do what as president? Okay, if at the time you are in Ibadan, there was another attack in Borno, you also live in Ibadan to Borno, or what will you do? You divide yourself, or you'll be in Ibadan in the morning and be in Borno in the evening and be shuttling between Ibadan and Borno. So you did Peter a great disservice. Maybe he is not intelligent enough to know that interview was a disservice to him. But those of us, putting ourselves in the shoes of the undecided, you did him a great disservice. Because now, the next candidate that will listen to me be an Ashwaju. And Ashwaju will not be saying, they're not allowing me attend parties. Ashwaju will be speaking to his reforms, will be speaking to his achievements. And if that is the first thing that makes sense to the undecided, you have robbed Peter that opportunity. My advice to Shude is stick to Ketenshaw and Amsinua and leave political conversations to the analysts that got the training and the learning and the skill and the hunger for it. 9 minutes.